Hello guys and welcome back. Speed Dogger, and we're building the Mears Models F86, and I wanted to talk to you guys about the elevators and such. Now this is pilot drilled and everything here, but there are a couple things you need to know. This has not been sanded out yet. I'm still working on it, but I wanted to show you guys the construction, and this will carry on to the ailerons, the flaps, and everything else. And they're actually a plywood frame, and they interlock and they match up to they line up just like everything else. But you do need to cap the fronts, and they can be a real pain in the butt to drill. So what I did here on this is I'm going to show you what I'm doing. Now I added some blocks in the back just because these are the elevators, but you're gonna have to cap the front of these off. Now this is just sanded flush so I can round it later, because I am using a hidden hinge line, and that's why I got this here. I wanted to show you this because the hinges, these are just rough drilled out. They're smaller than what the size of the hinges are, and I'm using Robart hinges. There's whatever, but you want this to be able to roll back, and in order to do that you got to bring the hinge line just about right to the middle of this. And so you'll notice I have not capped this end off, and I should have, and I wasn't so sure I had to, but you do have to. And so I pilot drilled this, and I just ran a drill sideways over here so I could set the hinges in here, and I don't have them yet, and I should have waited before I started really fitting them, but they're just pilot hold, and they're just 1/8 inch. I'm using 3/16, so I hope that's what they are, 3/32 holes. Now this one is completed. It's pilot drilled and everything else, the rudder is. And I did add the counterweight in there. Got a little bit of filling to do in here, and it works fine. But it's like I said, it's got to be, the center of these is kind of, you know what. But there is some truing up, and there is some shaping to do in here. And if you look, that it's just, and it's me. It isn't the kit or the parts. I got to round that off and get this actually looking good, because it's not rounded yet. It's still at a point. But I don't want to do it until I actually have the hinges. So everything right now is rough sanded, and just, you know, it is what it is. But I'm thinking it'll work really good. And the hinges actually are hidden behind a channel in here, and I just did this, and these need to be rounded off a little bit, especially down here, because they do rub a little bit in there. But again, if the gnomes would quit partying and goofing off, I can get my parts and get some of this stuff done. Now I capped the top of this one off, and what I'm doing here, this is another reason why you want to do it, because if you look here, I did it on this side because it's just, there's a long and a short side. The short side goes to the top, and make sure you're building a left and a right. Sorry, I get a little dusty in here. And then this edge, once it's done, guys, this becomes like a freaking knife. I could go out there and cut the weeds with this thing out in the backyard. Might have to do that too. But anyway, this thing is like a baseball bat when it's built. If you do it that way, and if you look on the edge, I beveled that edge when I sanded it in. That one needs to be trued up. But once you've done it and you've clamped it, this thing, there is no chance in hell it's ever gonna break or come out. It's extremely strong, and it's just, you know, and again, there's blocks in there. You guys saw this. I've already shown this out, so I'm not going to go too much about it. Now the counterweight, I measured it out and I cut it. It looks good, and it'll sit about right in there, and it does. It clears well, and it's like I said, I've got some more detail sanding to do. And it's like I said before, you are going to be one with the sanding block when you're done with this airplane, because this thing requires a lot of sanding just to make all these parts on this to actually fit right. It's not the laser kit, but it's everything else that you do in here that you've got to sand these to get these gaps nice and tight. You don't want any huge gaps. This has been separated, so it's there, but that will also swell back up because I used a knife to go in there and got it, because I actually did separate the airplane. And I opted not to take it apart yet until I get the canopy framed in and all that stuff done and get the slider built, which is about what I'm going to be doing. But I'm waiting on parts. I'm waiting on the latch to come in. There's a lot of things going on. But that doesn't stop me from doing a lot of sheeting work and a lot of body work. And there's a ton of it. There's a lot because of what I'm doing. Now, another big episode here is that I am going to put in the speed brakes. I wasn't going to do it, but this airplane is starting to do what the Spitfire did to me, and that's scream details. So, I've already measured them out, which, funny enough, the frames are right where the actual width is on it. And it'll come down about 2 inches here and 1.5 inches back to here. And that's that. Now, I'm gonna have to make the hinges. That's not a problem. The doors, they don't just swing straight out. They swing down. And I've had a piece of wood that I crudely kind of thought about it and made me decide to go ahead and do it. But I'm going to make these out of plywood. I'm going to use some nuts and some tubing and secure it that way to make sure that it can be removed if I have to. And I'm just going to put a lineal servo that pushes it out from the back, just like the real one. And we'll figure some details in there. We'll get some pictures and we'll play with it when we start detailing the fuselage. And that is easily reachable from the center of the fuselage. Once you get into it and you take it apart, you can easily reach it to surface it. And that's why I wasn't going to do it, but I decided I'm going to go ahead and do it. And those of you who have been watching, I am going to start building in some of the vents. The guns will go in here pretty soon. And I'm getting, as soon as the vertical fin and I get all the tops and all this done, these will go into glassing, and then I'll start basically the way I roll with everything, guys. I go out there and I'll work on one part of the airplane while it's drying up and doing it. I'll come back and work on another and go back and forth. Another thing we got to start working on here is the retract for the nose gear. And then we need to get into this thing and take a measurement, and we need to make some solid hardwood blocks for the main gear, which I'm actually seriously considering making these all one piece that fits in there and cutting them out to fit, which is a pain in the butt to do, but at the same time I want to make sure that what I put in there is actually the best I can get in, and I don't want to be putting in any extra crap that I don't need in there, but I want to make sure that these landing gear blocks just kind of snap in, which means I'm going to have to do like this. I'm going to have to cut this out a little bit so it can be slid in and dropped in. Now, it might be able to be a deal, but I don't want two narrow pieces like this because they're not wide enough for the gear to sit in. You're going to have to put some plates on there, and I'm not so sure about that, and if I'm wrong, please tell me, because I don't know. I never built one with those to put flex plates in, and I'm not so sure that is something that, I don't know. If it is, then I'll just go ahead and I'll put them in and get them ready to go, and then I can cut flex plates to fit in there out of, I see they sell them with the retract, so I don't know what I'm exactly looking at right there, but we'll get to it. Now, the wings are built. I'm waiting on more material so I can go ahead and web the front like I explained I was going to do. And then I need 20 sheets of wood to finish those. And it's 10 each wing. I've gone through 40 sheets of wood so far. So, and it's not hard to do. One of those stabilizers takes a sheet of 6" by 32 and 3/32 thickness. So she's a flying lumberyard, but there is no real scrap loss on a lot of the things I am doing. And then I'm going to start fabricating and making the sliding canopy. And as soon as I get one more piece across here and get this done, then I can start go ahead and doing some of the frame and the webbing that I was going to do before. I can glue this and get it stationary. I can go ahead and get this done, get it stationary, go ahead and put the piece back here because there's a mount that's going to go in back behind here for the linear servo that's going to pull this backwards. And then we'll go ahead, we'll get that. We're going to sheet over the top of it all the way to the top of the front, so that when the cockpit box, I'm going to build that next too. I'm going to build that, and this is all going to be done. Then I'm going to start building all these cool little details, and I'm doing those by scratch. So, and I'm going to be using a lot. Those of you that saw the build on the Spitfire, a lot of that was scratch built, but I use a lot of styrene to do that, and that's actually where the fun really starts beginning. But at that time, we're going to have to go in and we're going to have to build a box and make it removable. There's a latch that goes in here from My Fly Achilles that will go in there, and it'll actually be a pin right here that you pull. When you pull it, it locks it. No chance of it coming off. There's a ton of work to go on here yet, but we're looking like Knepp 86, and that was the goal. So I'm just gonna say, you know what, I'm gonna start doing some more planking. The more I do, the more it's starting to look like the real thing. So I've got a ton of things to do. Still got to get in and sand the inside of that tunnel out, get it ready to start glassing, and we're going to start doing a lot of glassing here, funny enough. As soon as all these tail surfaces are done, I will spray them with water and ammonia to de-dent them, to make sure there isn't. Then I'll sand all this down, and as soon as we get this separated, we'll do the bottom of the fuselage, get that done. Actually, I've gotten part of the tail, the intake done, but I got to run some more wires, and this is going to get covered in aluminum. And reason being for it is because, well, it's the exhaust pipe. I don't want anything blistering on there. And we're just going to use aluminum tape on the inside of that, and we're going to make it look like panels. And it's just like we're working with flight metal. If any of you guys have ever done that, it's actually pretty cool. And that's why there was this great big lip out here on this. If you look on the real jet and you look at the side view, I've already cut this out, got this done. There'll be another piece that comes around here. You're not going to see, it's not going to be like that. It'll be like this, and then this will be layered all the way through it again, all the way around it. So anyway, that's where I'm at, and we're getting there. There's some finished work to do. I have not sheeted anything underneath, and both sides need to be done. That's just loose. It's not sitting where it needs to be. It tightens right up, just in case you're wondering. See, I'll get it. But anyway, none of those tubes are epoxied or nothing yet. This one is, but you know, it's completely done. And this is my servo hatch. Those screws are too long, so I got to go down and get some shorter ones. They're stainless steel, but they sit like this. The securing bolt is countersunk, and it sits right there, and that's what the bolt that holds the tail down. Still doing a little bit of body work, a little bit of finesse sanding in here, but as you can see, this disappears when it comes down. Still got some finish sanding to do. There's a lot going on, but a lot of that won't get done until we're glassed. And the reason for it is because it's all going in to be bodywork, finish work. A lot of these things are incorporated in for panel lines, because there is panel lines that go from here all the way down. They come down here, they go across. It's got panel lines everywhere. The drawings are nuts. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the funny papers.